Before the name Schreffler meant anything to governments or gravestones, before it crossed great oceans or marked veterans' tombs, it echoed silently in the cliffs of an ancient world, a world carved by time, war, and survival. This is the story of the Schreffler family, a people born of stone, split crags, ancient memory, and an unbroken legacy.
O Woden, höre uns!
O Woden, höre uns!
The Old World. Centuries before the first recorded Schrefflers arrived in the Americas, their ancestors lived in the wooded heartlands of the Germanic world. We began in the regions of Rhineland, Palatinate, and Hesse, regions known not only for their rugged terrain and thick forests, but also their deeply rooted tribal cultures. Archaeological records reveal that as early as 1000 BCE, Indo-European peoples lived here in the fortified hill settlements. These were pre-Celtic, and later Celtic and Germanic tribes. Fierce, resilient, earthbound people forged tools from stone and bronze, worshipped nature spirits, and traced their ancestry to sacred groves and rocks. To be born near a split crag was to inherit the power of a land, a name, not just descriptive, but sacred, Schreffler. In this world, the name Schreffler, or its oldest variations, might not have been spoken at all, but implied. Implied by a cliff a man called home. Implied by the tool he carved from it. By the 1500s, the regions of Germany where the Schrefflers lived were convulsing under the weight of religious and political upheaval. The Protestant Reformation swept across the Holy Roman Empire, splitting villages, families, and traditions. Many families, especially from those smaller villages and the Palatinate, were caught between devastation of the 30 Years' War and the rising pressures of religious conformity. It is in this crucible that the Schreffler name, or Schreffler, or Schreffler, or Schrefflinger, emerges in parish records. These were farmers, blacksmiths, and soldiers, people of the land in Germany, people of the hammer, and people of the stone. Their faith, Protestant. Their work, survival. Now imagine a man named Johan, strong hands, quiet eyes.
Watch closely, son. This is how we shape the stone.
Like this, Father?
He teaches his son how to split stone, how to build shelter, how to survive winter. He's not yet called Schreffler. Not officially, but everyone knows he lives on the broken cliff. Everyone knows who he is. In the early 1700s, hundreds of thousands of Germans began to immigrate to American colonies, especially to Pennsylvania. Fleeing war, economic devastation, and religious persecution, they were lured by promises of land and freedom in the New World. Among these were the first Schrefflers, including Johann Heinrich Schreffler, the man who would later be known as John Henry Schreffler Jr. He was born on March 15, 1751 in Philadelphia, likely the son of a recent immigrant. His father may have arrived on a ship bearing one of the many Palatine grips, part of a wave of German-speaking settlers who would soon be known as the Pennsylvanian Dutch. John Henry Jr. was no stranger to struggle. When the American colonies revolted against British rule, he enlisted 3 separate times as a private. In his own words, he described the brutal marches, surprise engagements, and harsh conditions that defined the war. We marched to Philadelphia, then to Clinton, thence to Wilmington. We drew 24 rounds of cartridges and marched to Brandywine. We gained the first battle and took 7 field pieces from the British. He fought at Brandywine, helped defend Mud Fort, and marched across Pennsylvania countryside with Captain Jacob Crowell and later Captain Ferdinand Ritter. He helped move captured Hessians across the Delaware. He spoke German. He saw blood spilled in American soil.
Charge! Freedom!
His team and wagon were taken by Colonel Morgan, and he served for 18 months more in supporting roles. Schreffler, the Split Rock, was the spine of the revolution. Not the generals or the signers, but the men who hauled, marched, loaded, and buried. After the war, John Henry married Christine Korpler. Together they raised a family that would grow in the country, from the original 13 colonies to push westward. His son, John Henry Schreffler, 1775 to 1860, continued the line. The family stayed in Pennsylvania and Montgomery County, where the elder John Henry would pass away in 1837, but their legacy would scatter. The Schreffler name, sometimes arranged Schreffler or Schreffler, spread across the Midwest, the Plains, and eventually the West. Farmers, teachers, soldiers, sailors, pastors, mechanics, always sturdy, always close to the land. But who were the Schrefflers before language, before records, before religion? They were of the cliff and the crag, of the wild rivers, stoneworkers, axe bearers, part of the Germanic tribes that once defied Rome, the Chatti, the Suebi, the Cheresi, tribes that lived not in the cities, but in the memories of forest and bone. There's a quiet strength passed down through the centuries, a memory etched not in words, but instinct, in discipline, in resilience. The kind that fights a war, raises a family, and builds a country, stone by stone. Today the name survives. It survives on veterans' headstones and yellowing Bibles, in Pennsylvania directories, and in DNA. It survives in those who still work with their hands, still walk with silent pride, still feel most at home near the mountains, fields, or the forgotten trails and crags. Schrefflers, you are the child of the cliff people, of war survivors. You are the stone splitters, is what your name means. The legacy lives in your bones, split but strong, weathered but immovable. Just like the crag that gave you your name.
Wir werden Schreffler sein.